The debate will be short, and then we can probably have a conversation for the rest of our time. Because the debate will consist of, can you prove David Crowley is guilty? Answer will be no. Boom, debate over, and I win. Okay? That's it. So Danny Mason has agreed to an interview to discuss the death of David Crowley, the death of his wife Kamel, and the death of their daughter Rania. So we're going to have a polite, nice discussion, interview, debate, whatever. As long as it doesn't turn into a shouting match or a name calling thing, then everything should be alright. I'm not going to put up with disrespectful language, and I'm going to try to make sure that I'm not disrespectful as well. So it's a two-way street for me. Hopefully it'll all go well. Hopefully it'll go just as well as the conversation that I had with Judy. So that's all that I can really ask for. Okay, on Friday, October 27th, Danny Mason posted a number of things inside of the Justice for David Crowley and Facebook group. And that's what I really wanted to talk about today. So what I'm going to do is go there. And let's just go over some of the comments and some of the things that Danny Mason has said based on his post. And you will be seeing those screenshots of his post here. It's going to be very important that we don't assume, we don't put words into Danny Mason's mouth, and at the same time, we're going to expect Danny Mason to do the exact same thing. Now, what I don't want it to turn into is a Dan Hinnon bash, and I don't want it to turn into a thing where I'm forced to defend Dan Hinnon, or where Danny Mason is forced to defend anybody else. I don't think that Danny Mason can defend David Crowley, especially since he has accused him of being guilty as well, along with a number of other people, including the Apple Valley Police Department and whatever other authorities were involved in this case as well. We know that Jim Gummert of the Apple Valley Police Department, the police captain, and the police chief have all stated that they believe that David Crowley is guilty. Yet they have no motive, they have no facts to back up that theory. So it always goes back to, what is the theory based on? Why is it such a weak theory, and why did they jump to that theory so quickly? These are very simple questions. These are questions that I hope that Eric Nelson would have answered in his documentary, A Gray State, which was supposed to cover David Crowley's death. Instead, it just seems to cover what Eric Nelson wants to fixate on. Now, having said that, I have to remind everyone that I have not seen the movie yet. And after hearing several reviews and after hearing some opinions on the movie, I can tell you I am not in any rush to see this film. But I will see it. And I'm sure I'll have a lot more to say after I do see it. And I can pretty much guarantee you that it's not going to be anything different than what we've already been saying, and anything different than what I've already thought. Now, it might actually add to some of these questions that I have. Meaning it's just going to ask more questions. It's going to make me wonder why one person is saying one thing, the other person is saying the other, and why we keep getting so many conflicting stories, catching people in lies, and why we have so many people that have their own view or whatever, have their own belief, or they know why David Crowley did this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts like Sean Wright says. Sean Wright doesn't know that. Sean Wright can say that he thinks that David Crowley is guilty, but he can't say that David Crowley is guilty and prove it. If he could, he would have done it by now. So I don't believe that Sean Wright can. I don't believe Danny Mason can. I don't believe Mason Hendricks can. I don't believe Chris Peck can. I don't believe Chris Klein, whoever the hell he is, I don't believe he can either. I don't believe anybody can. And so that's why I've had an open challenge, and the open challenge to debate any of these people will stand. It will stand until a debate happens. Now, if a discussion happens, then great. Then great. I kind of feel like Sean Wright and I have already had that The problem is we had it privately and not publicly because Sean did not want to speak publicly, but he likes to contact people privately. So you also have to wonder about that. Well, if he's so sure and if he's positive about these things, then Sean Wright should have the guts to say these things publicly. Now, he has said a lot of the same things publicly that we hear over and over and over. And the one thing that I wish he would stop saying is that if David Crowley was murdered by the government, then Sean Wright was going to be the first to start a revolution. Nobody's going to follow your revolution. Nobody cares about a revolution involving Sean Wright. If a revolution involves someone who was so quick to believe that their friend was murdered without any evidence, without having any factual proof, and without the investigation being complete, that's not a revolution I want to be a part of. And I don't believe that's a revolution a lot of people would want to be a part of. Because it's not a revolution based on truth. I've never wanted a revolution, and I do not support a revolution, and I will not support a revolution. I will support a restoration of our Constitution. I will support, us doing what we can peacefully and publicly to get back to where we should be and to make this country a more peaceful place. I think a lot of people confuse revolution with a takeover, with a coup. So it's not a revolution that I see. What I saw in the Gray State movie also was not a revolution again. It was very extreme, and I still don't like the whole story of Gray State. But that's another topic for another day, I suppose. What we're really here to talk about today is what Danny Mason said, and what he hasn't said. I don't believe he's spoken since then, actually. He posted on Friday, and I believe that's basically it. There were 26 comments on that post, and I think let's go ahead and go through a few. I think it's going to be important to go through these in case Danny Mason decides, for whatever reason, that he doesn't want to accept the invitation to this interview. So we'll see. So on October 27th at 5:48 p.m. Central Time, Danny August Mason posts in the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group. It's a public group. Generally, anybody can post there. Some people who post like porn and stuff like that have gotten banned, but that's about it. Maybe one or two other people have. So he posts here calling out Greg and Dan. So after months, maybe a year, 2 years now, of me calling him out to debate me, now he's going to take the opportunity to call me out, which is great. That's awesome. And I love that he did it publicly. I do respect that. I do like the fact that he didn't try to contact me privately like Sean Wright did. I like the fact that Danny Mason actually posted it in the public group. To me, that shows how serious and how sincere we should all give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, that's just what I'm saying right now. And that's the way that I really feel, by the way. So, he says, have you seen the doc? And he's talking about Eric Nelson's A Gray State. And no, I have not seen it. I will see it. One day I will see it. He says, I'll do a once interview. So he's saying he's going to do an interview just one time after hearing the garbage from the mics. And then he says, any takers. So if Dan Hennon recently had a audio interview with Mike Baggio III, who was I believe he was the president of MEG, which is the Michael Entertainment Group. And they were working on a $30 million deal, or they were working on a deal with David Crowley. Let's start there. They estimated that the Gray State movie would have cost somewhere between $25 to $30 million. Now, that doesn't mean that that money was going to go to David Crowley or anything. It just means that that was the deal that they were working on, and that was the budget that they were going to be working with. So, so after probably I think a day after Dan Hinnon did his interview with Mr. Baguio 3, Danny August Mason jumps online, goes on the Facebook group, and kind of goes into a little bit of a rant, but is not really saying too much either. So and at one point he even talks about playing games and asks if let's play a game. And it's like, oh, we don't want to play a game. Nobody wants to play a game with you. This is not a game. This is very serious. So we're trying to treat it like that, not to treat it as a game. So no, we don't want to play a game. Okay, then he was gonna private message me. We would set up the whole details. We are still working on that, but I haven't heard from him since this night, so who knows. And then I asked him if he cared to answer some questions now, and he said negative. And then, of course, later on that night, he does go on to answer some questions, or at least ask if we have any questions, or what questions do we have. So at least he's trying to get a feel of what we're going to ask, what we're going to say, what questions are going to come up, and it's nothing we haven't already talked about, nothing we haven't already covered. So some people have told us after we see a gray state that it will answer all of our questions, and that will be that. Or you'll be shocked when you see this. It'll change the way that you feel. Well, okay, we'll see. But I can almost guarantee you that's not going to happen. But of course, we're going to keep an open mind, and I hope it does happen. I'll definitely be looking for it. But if it doesn't answer the same questions that I've been asking, why would somebody even tell me that? Why would they even say that this will answer all your questions, already knowing what questions that I'm asking? So knowing that, you know, Danny Mason in the thread with Dan Hinnon brings up something about a lawyer. Consult your lawyer, because I'll be consulting mine. So then I asked Danny Mason, what are you consulting with the lawyer about? And Danny Mason said nothing. And then he goes, you? And he says, oh, Greg. It's like, well, you just said you were consulting with a lawyer. Now you're saying you're not consulting with a lawyer? So I'm a little confused there. And I just told you were in the trailer and you still can't prove David was guilty. And he says, you can't prove that I was the main one. The main one what? That he was the main one in the trailer? I thought he was the main character, or maybe Chris Hubble was, but from my point of view, I don't know. Seemed like his character would be the main character, be the character that would save Chris Hubble's character. So, and I just asked him, you admit that you have no proof? And he asked me, do you? And of course, I admit I have no proof. I have no proof to prove David Crowley is guilty, or else I would have said it. The proof that we have to show David Crowley is not guilty is within the lack of proof to show David Crowley is. So we can't just say, well, you know what, if you think he's not guilty, then you have to prove it. Wait a minute. I thought we were all innocent until proven guilty. What happened to that? Or is that part of the revolution too? Where in the revolution we're going to get lined up in a guillotine and get our heads chopped off. That's a revolution. I don't want any part of that. And if that's what the gray state was trying to show, it seems very satanic to me. Chopping off the heads, sacrifice, all that stuff. Putting your head onto a guillotine is very similar, I would think, to burning a baby before some false idol. So there was a lot of fear porn in that trailer, in the 5-minute trailer. There's a lot of stuff in there, the whole thing. And then they always have to relate it to Alex Jones or the alt-right. I'm going to have to ask Danny Mason what his view on this alt-right thing. Why are they tying David with the alt-right? Did David Crowley ever mention the alt-right to Danny August Mason? How about that? How about answer that question? That's a good question. I have to add that to my list. So the main one, I don't know what he's talking about, this main one, and then Lynn Anderson is also wondering, what is he talking about when he says main one? You don't know that I'm the main one. So I'm assuming he's talking about the main actor. I don't know. And then another person, Christine, points out that he's just talking in riddles. That's all he's doing. He's talking in riddles. He's not really trying to have a real conversation. That's sad. because he had a great opportunity to and failed. Another failure. Because you could have just answered some of these simple questions and we all could have moved on. But the fact that you couldn't shows me you don't have any answers. Shows me that you can't prove David Crowley is guilty, and you won't attempt to, because then you'll be made to look foolish. It's sad. So I just tell him, you made the claim David Crowley is guilty. Where's your proof? Back it up. I have never made the claim. I'm open to the possibility that he is or that he isn't, but I'm not saying, yes, I know what happened. And anyone that says, oh, the government did it, I would ask you the same thing. Prove it. Where's your proof? Back it up. Or don't say it. It's one thing to think, or to think that you know what happened, or say, you know what, in my gut, in my heart, this is what I think happened. It's another thing to say, oh, we all know what happened. Everybody, no, we don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. The Lord in heaven knows. That's good enough for me. So the interview is on. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen. Might happen this Sunday. I don't know. But regardless, I want it to happen. I want to give people as much time so that they can join us and listen to it live. It has to be live. It will not be edited when it's released. Danny Mason is free to do whatever he wants with it once it's filmed, once it's recorded, once the audio recording is complete. He can do whatever he wants with it. I will do whatever I want with it. And that will be that. And let's just let the people decide. Let's see if you can actually prove your theory. The debate will be short, and then we can probably have a conversation for the rest of our time. Because the debate will consist of, can you prove David Crowley is guilty? Answer will be no. Boom, debate over, and I win. Okay? That's it. The rest of it will just be an interview of us talking, or hopefully I get to ask him questions. If he wants to ask me anything, he definitely can. I'm not going to say anything that I haven't already said publicly on Facebook, or in these videos. My views are very clear. There's no riddles with me in these views. It's very simple. And I just hope that he would respect that, and I hope that he would stop playing these little games, playing these riddles, and just be a real human being. And it's very simple. Just tell the truth. Tell what you know. Whatever you know, whatever it is, just tell us. Okay? That's it. I hope the Gray State Project does not go through. I hope it doesn't go forward. I would hate to see this project go forward. I would hate to see anybody make money off of this project. They're already making money. The money is made. So. And Danny just asked us, just don't get butthurt on my logic. And I don't think we'll get butthurt over anybody's logic. And Christine makes it clear, facts over logic. And that's a great, great point, Christine. Because it should always be facts over logic. And actually, the facts and the logic should go like this. And if they don't, then you know they're like this. And that does not mean that there is truth. So when facts and logic meet, hopefully we get truth. Otherwise, we're just getting spinning heels, ring around the rosy, and playing games. Going around and around in circles. Which is what we don't want. Alright, so Danny agrees. I can't wait till we talk. And here's an interesting one. Robert Ellion asks how people can watch the documentary, and Danny August Mason says Netflix. So apparently it's going to be on Netflix. Danny, I've been waiting for you to answer one simple question since this whole thing started. I asked the exact same question here when you posted this this post into the Facebook group, and you can't answer it. How are you going to have a debate with me? How are you going to have a discussion with me? You can't answer this question. The same question that I've been asking for 2 years now. How are you going to do that? And not look foolish? So I think we'll have to wait and see that. Let's see. Okay, we get into David's version of the gray state. And Danny's just kind of going around and around. Danny says, he tells Robert Elliott, the only thing I hold a big grudge on and most of my life is that a kid had no choice. So, he says a kid had no choice, so we need to figure out what he's talking about that. Responding to that, Robert Elliott says, I'll take a shot at what you said. You're holding a grudge against David because his daughter had no choice in this matter. Is that what you're saying? And Danny answers to Robert, holding a grudge? So you're cool with taping a 5-year-old? There's been question if Danny was trying to say tapping, as in, tapping a 5-year-old, or taping. I'm going to go with taping for now. He'll have his opportunity to clear it up. He could clear it up whenever he wants to. Maybe he does down later in these comments. So, Robert's still trying to have a real conversation with Danny Mason, and it just seems like Danny Mason is all over the place and not really answering any questions, not sticking to the discussion that we're trying to have here. I don't know what he's doing at this point. So then Robert says, you said you're holding a grudge, not me. And I'm not sure what you're saying in regards to taping a child. I have 4 children. I've never wished that happened to David's daughter upon anyone, or upon anyone, if that's what you are asking. And then Robert also says, I'm confused, Danny. I don't know if you're using voice to text or if you're inebriated. And Danny says voice to text. Okay, he says, Robert then says, will you explain what you mean then, please? I'm not cool with any kind of harm to kids, as I have 3 of my own. And then Danny Mason just says, seriously? And it's like, what do you mean, seriously? Oh, yeah, seriously. The guy just said he had kids. What needs to be? I don't know. So, with that being said, I think it's very, very clear that it's just more games. He even says, let's play a game. The game that you're playing, you will lose at because it is a game. Games are not meant to be won, they're meant to be played. So you get played because you play the games. I won't play the games. I'm not interested in playing any of these games. I'm only interested in seeing what the truth is here. If you're not interested in that, then move on. See ya. So, let's see, a few more rounds. And again, more assumption. These are what the people do when they feel backed into a corner. They assume things about other people. So now here Danny is assuming that I'm assuming. And he says, you assume to know me and motives, and yet you and Dan has never spoken to me, just based on assumptions. Also the fact that Dan was in the dock, which he won't talk about. Well, I was in the dock too. I thought I was. Maybe I dreamed it. But no, Danny, you are assuming. You're the one who is assuming a lot of things that you shouldn't be because you don't know what you're talking about. I think it's very clear this guy does not really know what he's talking about. Maybe he's angry. Maybe he's going through some difficulties. Maybe there's some other problems, some other personal things that are happening. Hey, you know what, man? We all have problems. We all got things that are going on. So I'm not interested in treating anybody like a victim or sympathizing with anybody like you claim that I did. I'm not sympathizing with you or with anybody. I'm just trying to see what's happening here. You should be too. You should be very concerned about your credibility and some of the things that you're saying here. So no, I'm not assuming to know you or your motives. I hope that your motives would be about truth, and if you would answer one simple question, then you would show me that it is about truth. And I already know your answer. I know what you're going to say. No, I don't know. I don't know David Crowley's guilty. So why don't you just say it? Just come out and say that. Why is that so difficult? Why do we have to... It's like pulling teeth to get anybody to say that. They won't say it. They can't prove he's guilty, but they won't say that he's not. Nice friends. Really nice friends, man. With friends like that. Just based on assumptions. So I think the assumptions are a lot of what Danny August Mason is making, which a lot of people do when they're angry, I think. So maybe that's my assumption about people making assumptions about me. But that's how I feel. But I would never, accuse somebody of, oh, you think you know me, you think you know me. That's childish behavior, and that's what children do. And we're not children, Danny. We're grown adults. All right, so again, another dude, seriously. Your group posted a photo on my home. That's beyond creepy. Yeah, I didn't really like that. I didn't like in the police reports that people's phone numbers and things like that were posted. I didn't really think that was cool. But that was my own view. So I called him out publicly. I knew that he would see what I posted. So all he had to do was respond and say, I accept your challenge. I called the whole Gray State team out. Looks like Danny August Mason is going to be the first one to accept this challenge. So, again, he's lying that I attack people without giving them a place for a debate. So we can add that to Danny Mason's lies. I'm a horrible debater. That's great. That's his opinion. I never claimed to be a great debater, but I will debate on this topic because, like I said, I win. You lose. And here's why. One question. The whole debate surfaces around. Can you prove David Crowley is guilty? Nope. Then Danny Mason, you lose the debate. Goodbye. Have I seen the doc? So then he's asking me again if I've seen the documentary. Like I've said so many times, no, I have not seen it. I don't know how many times I have to really see that. Danny then says, I don't have to prove anything. You don't have to prove anything, but if you can't prove it, then you will lose. Your debate is lost. So, might not even want to show up. You guys are the ones who have a hard-on for David. No, I don't have a hard-on for David. I think that's another one of Danny Mason's things that he says when he feels like he's backed into a corner. He has to come and lash out. Instead of lashing out, why not just be a grown person? Don't be a wimp. Talk about it. Let's figure it out. Let's see what's going on. Alright, just ask him, what do you think? Can you prove David Crowley is guilty? And he asked me, what do you think? I just said, answer the question. No more games. Answer the question. Tell me your answer, and I will tell you what I think of your answer. I'll wait. He says, cha, bro, let's wait for the podcast. You see the doc yet? Again. It's like, no, for the 5th time, I have not seen the doc yet. And you tell me if the doc proves David is guilty. Of course he can't. Then we get into this pack theory. So then Danny is claiming that David and Kamel made a pact. Kamel and David made a pact. Okay, if they made a pact, then that is not a double murder-suicide. Now we're talking about a double suicide-murder. So now you have 2 issues that you're going to lose on. Now you have 2 things, 2 debates that you will lose on. You can't prove that David Crowley is guilty. How are you going to prove that David and Kamel are guilty? You're going to lose. You're going to lose again. So, and then it goes back to the daughter. Rainey was like a daughter to me. Yeah, Sean Wright said the same thing. Everybody's like a daughter, but nobody wants to actually figure out what really happened here. If you guys really cared about this family, then you would understand where we're coming from, to the point that we're saying, okay, well, if they did this, then what is that theory based on? And that's been the whole problem. So I would have to say, that's not how you should treat your daughter. If somebody killed your daughter, you wouldn't just accept what the police said or what somebody else said. You would actually do some research. So do it. Do it with this case too. Alright, so let's see. She was 5. Danny says she was 5 and didn't have a choice. So push the bottoms. I think he means buttons. So push the buttons. But when it comes to Rainey, I'll get very heated because she didn't have a choice. Okay, and then it goes back to the whole thing where it's just like, okay, what does that have to do with this? So you're the one who is accusing David and his wife of killing their daughter. And then what when it comes to the daughter, all of a sudden, you get what do you say? You get heated. You get heated from that. Really, you should get heated from the fact that you can't prove anything. What you're saying. Get heated for that. That's heat. He says, I don't give a S because of this. A little girl who was a daughter to me is gone, and I'm a uncle. So Greg, again, make this about David. The biggest effing shame is that of Rainey. You people make me sick. So we make him sick even though he's the one who really makes everybody sick because he's making the allegations that can't be proven. That's pretty sick. It's pretty sick to say that David Crowley and his wife killed their daughter and then killed themselves when you can't prove it. That sounds sick to me.